Well, today in the House, a vote to establish a select committee to investigate the security breach at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th.
That's right. You might recall that a vote to establish an outside commission failed in the Senate last month. But Democrats are not giving up, so Nancy Pelosi proposed a select committee of House members to investigate.
To be clear, today's vote would not require the Senate's approval. It would be a committee of House members, not to be confused with that outside commission. Let's take a closer look with our panelists, welcoming Joe Collins, a former GOP congressional candidate from California. Also joining us, Kelly Hyman, a Democrat strategist, and Isabel Brown, contributor at Turning Point USA and also author of this book on your screen, Frontlines. All right, so there are ongoing investigations about what happened on January 6th. We actually recently heard from a committee within the Senate issuing their own report and findings as well. So let's focus in on what we're seeing on the House side of it. Isabel, we see the Speaker talking about forming this commission. Is this a partisan political move by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi?
It absolutely is. And the question every American should be asking right now is why now? We're getting awfully close to July 6th, not January 6th. And as you mentioned, Emma, there are multiple ongoing federal investigations from agencies, and they're on Capitol Hill as well. So what begs the question is, why do we need another committee to study the same thing that people have been investigating for half of a year now at this point, and already answering many of those ongoing and lingering questions that the American people have? The answer is very simple. It's that midterms are right around the corner, and the American people are deeply unsatisfied with the far left radical agenda being shoved through Nancy Pelosi's House there on Capitol Hill. You're seeing inflation rise across the country, radical crime being surging in every major city nationwide, open borders at our southern border, people still haven't gone back to work because of unemployment policies where they make more money actually being unemployed than going back to work. And if you ask any American today if their life is better now under both Democrat control in the House and Senate and President Joe Biden's administration than it was a year ago, I would be hard-pressed to find a single person. So this is really just a way to continue pointing the finger across the aisle, to place blame on Republicans there on Capitol Hill and around the country, and really cushion oneself from a partisan perspective as we go into the midterm elections next year.
Now, Kelly, I want to come to you because, to Isabel's point, it does seem that this is particularly partisan. This being compared to a Benghazi-type probe by Nancy Pelosi. Actually, Minority Leader McCarthy says he hasn't even heard from Nancy Pelosi. And this is all against a backdrop where we've seen over 500 people swiftly arrested, awaiting prosecution. So from your perspective, from where you sit, has what should be an American inquiry into establishing that what happened on January 6th should never happen again morphed into some type of partisan battering ram that's being used in many ways to continue the division that caused the events in the first place?
Well, I would hope that people, Republican, Democrat, or independent, would want to know what happened. The American people have a right to know, and this should be a bipartisan issue, no matter what your political party is, and the American people need to know, and there should be transparency. And so I'm hoping that we have that, but unfortunately in the Senate, they decided not to do that. And so hopefully through the House, there can be some kind of bipartisan initiative so that people can find out, so the American people could find out what exactly happened, and the American people have a right to know.
Well, you say you're optimistic for a bipartisan approach in the House. As you say, it had failed in the Senate there. Joe Collins, I'll go to you next. What does this leave Leader McCarthy to do? How do you think he should view his own appointments in this commission?
Well, I think that McCarthy, he's a very smart man. He's going to do what needs to be done, and hopefully it's to shoot this down. As Isabella stated, they do have a lot of independent commissions already investigating what happened in January 6th. And I have to also agree with Kelly. It should be bipartisan, but the last thing we need is a bunch of Democrats being handpicked by Nancy Pelosi and flipping the narrative in a manner that's going to be, beneficial for Democrats, knowing that Democrats have done absolutely nothing to ensure the quality of life of the American people thus far.
Now, Isabel, I want to give you the last word here because on some basic level, when you look at what's transpired here, the constant drumbeat in the media to focus on January 6th, there are so many actual real issues that are impacting our democracy, our sovereignty, our way of life, the hacks from Russia, the chaos on the southern border. In your opinion, why do we continue to beat the drum to look into something that clearly is very much already being looked into?
The word that we've heard used over and over from leaders on the left in Washington, D.C. since January has been unity. But in reality, when you see the policies passed and the agenda of this presidential administration and leaders on Capitol Hill, you see anything but unity coming to our country. Creating yet another commission to answer questions that, yes, we all deserve to have the answers to, but are already being investigated in a very serious extent there in Washington, D.C., is nothing more than a partisan ploy to continue to divide Americans rather than encourage us to be the United States of America. Remember that when you go vote next year, because many of the individuals who keep using this word unity over and over again mean anything but it.
All right, that is Isabel Brown, Joe Collins, Kelly Hyman, our panelists. Please stick around. We'd like to talk to you about another topic coming up.
All right, now it appears First Lady Jill Biden is back in the headlines as yesterday it was announced she will be on the cover of Vogue magazine's August issue. Now, the First Lady is pictured on one of the balconies at the White House with the cover title, "A First Lady for All of Us." On the road with Dr. Jill Biden.
Okay, our panelists are here to react. Joe Collins, Kelly Hyman, Isabel Brown. Of course, you know, we see the First Lady on the cover, but I want to talk to you about what's inside the magazine. In the article, the First Lady touts her husband's COVID vaccine rollout, stating, quote, "When I travel around the country now, I feel as though people can breathe again. I think that's part of the reason Joe was elected. People wanted someone to come in and heal this nation, not just from the pandemic, which I feel Joe did by, you know, getting shots in everyone's arms." Now, it is clearly in vogue for the First Lady to be on Vogue's cover. But Kelly Hyman, I'll go to you. Was this perhaps a missed opportunity to unify readers by acknowledging, even crediting Operation Warp Speed that got the ball rolling in regards to the COVID vaccine under the previous administration?
Well, first off, I think it's great that she's on a cover. I mean, we have to remember she's a teacher and they are the cornerstone of our great nation. I have family members that are teachers and they are overworked and underpaid. But I think it's important for us to come together as Americans and unite. I think that it's important for us to move forward and know that people are getting vaccinated, people are moving forward with their lives, and we need to build back better and work on the infrastructure and move forward for this country.
Well, Isabel, I'll come to you because there's so much talk of unity on the left. They act as if President Biden is supposed to be the unifier in chief, and yet they just seem to keep ignoring the fact that all they do is unify the people who voted for Joe Biden happily versus the people who voted for Joe Biden begrudgingly. Because at the end of the day, all they do is say that the 75 million people who voted for President Trump are all racist or deplorable or deficient in some way. How do we get the actual mainstream apparatus to recognize the fact that they have in many ways isolated half of America?
It starts with just telling the truth and getting the facts out there. Joe, you hit the nail right on the head with this understanding that unity is the buzzword for this administration and many people who support them. Kelly, you just used that word right now. It came back up in this conversation. But in reality, unity was a mark completely missed by this article from Vogue and honestly every action from the Biden administration thus far. To suggest that the Biden administration is directly responsible for the rollout of this vaccine program is blatantly false. Operation Warp Speed was the greatest mobilization of resources in the United States since World War II. And at every point when President Trump would announce how many doses of the vaccine we would have, the media would discredit him over and over again. That is, until those points were hit under a Biden administration and all of the credit was given to our current president. Let's not pretend that First Lady Jill Biden is really someone that is a first lady for us all. And also remember that during the primary debates after Kamala Harris called out Joe Biden with his track record on race, Jill Biden said on a phone call to supporters of the Biden campaign in reference to our current vice president to go F yourself. There is a track record here that is not being covered from Vogue magazine, and it's incredibly disheartening to see.
Yeah, that was that report left out of the Vogue article there. And of course, it's obvious to note we had a former First Lady, Melania Trump, who was never offered the same cover opportunities while she served as First Lady. Joe, instead of having you weigh in on that story, I want to talk to you about this. We saw the president travel to Wisconsin the other day. He was touting the infrastructure bill. But here's what reporters asked him about when he was promoting it. Take a listen to this.
I like cookies and cream and what do I want here? And strawberry.
All right. You're not getting in Rocky Road for infrastructure?
Well, I'll tell you, it's kind of rocky road. We're going to get it done.
Joe, your thoughts on the priorities of even some of these reporters' questions when you're talking about this expensive infrastructure bill that a lot of people are wondering how it's going to be paid for?
Yeah, well, we know that the Biden administration doesn't have a way to pay for the majority of the bills that they pass. But I can understand that this is like a double entendre. Are you going to get rocky road because the roads in America are rocky? But, to another point, that is the worst flavor of ice cream that you can ever get. I mean, cookies and cream and strawberries. That's ridiculous. But I mean, like, if you're a reporter and you don't want to confuse Joe Biden or have him whispering like the Yin Yang twins again, of course you're going to toss him a softball question yet again.
Yeah, interesting flavor combo. Of course, interesting to note, too, it has been more than 3 months since the president hosted a formal press briefing with reporters. So any chance reporters have to ask the president a question, you would think would be used efficiently and effectively. And yet those are the questions we get. Okay, Joe Collins, Kelly Hyman, Isabel Brown. Thank you, panelists. We appreciate the analysis.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.